Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 511 Grant Street here in Silverton. We're located, so if you're, and I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing into the property. So right now we're kind of on the left side of the home from that orientation. This may very well be the front door here next to the garage, but I'm kind of calling the side of the house that face out at the street the front. So anyway, we're just off to the right of this door here on the same side of the house as the garage. Got a 4-inch PVC clean out. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running. We are zeroed out and off we go here. And this is probably going to be a pretty long sewer line. I'm going to keep the camera zipping along here. I'll pull the camera back in slower. And right as we drop in, the line swaps over to 3034 PVC. Same diameter, 4-inch. Looks like we just made a turn there to start heading up the driveway. And my camera is upside down right now, in case you're wondering why the water's flying through the air. Your eyes do not deceive you. And this is unique to get 3034 PVC run this far back onto a property. And it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. 3034 PVC is about as good as pipe gets. Generally, they save this stuff until you get out to the right-of-way. Scraping a little bit of debris loose there as we've been going along. I'm going to try and ramp up the water flow here a little bit. Going through a couple low spots here, and I was just about to mention to you, I've been doing this 13 years now. I've cambered almost 25,000 sewer lines at this point. And I say all that to say this. Lines like this that are long, you know, when they're pushing about 100 feet plus, unless you are up on a really steep hillside where the property provides a whole bunch of slope and grade for you naturally, it is very, very commonplace to end up with standing water in the sewer lines. I tend to look at these a little bit different than your average line. Or bear with me a moment here, turn the water off. I look at them differently. The likelihood you're going to end up with standing water in the line this length is so likely that I look at them more like I do a septic system. It comes down to just treating them properly. And the good part is here, you have a fully updated, large diameter 4-inch plastic sewer line. The reality is in plastic sewer lines, bellies, they are something that get hugely blown out of proportion in real estate transactions. And generally speaking, the only time I really even get concerned about them is when where you've got a reasonable amount of water or worse, and when they're in rough pipe materials like cast iron and concrete. That combination is not one I love. The water can slow things down, and you've got these rough, gnarly pipe walls that can snag onto debris. Plastic does not have that same problem. It's very smooth and mitigates the buildup very nicely. As long as you're not feeding a plastic sewer line improper stuff that can build up, like grease, cooking oil, junk like that, you're just not giving it anything to build up and result in anything. So the plus side is, too, here is most of the standing water in this line is a good distance from the home. So we'll revisit this on the way out here in just a moment. We're going to let the line fully drain. I had a garden hose running full bore, which can exaggerate a quarter or a half an inch of water into what looks like 2 inches. So we'll see what these things even look like. But lines this length, I tend to lead far more towards periodic maintenance cleaning for a few $100 every few years if it's even necessary. If you're not putting tons of cooking oil and grease down the line, wipes, flushable wipes, junk like that, there's really no reason to even clean them. Bellies will not build up debris in them unless you're helping it along. That's just the reality, especially in plastic sewer lines. So anyway, we're going to go locate really quick here while the pipe drains off. Alrighty. Located the camera head successfully. Line terminates on the far side of the road. I mean, I don't think you can get any further before you pop out the other side into the neighbor's driveway. But basically what the line does here is it runs to the fence line, approximately to the fence line here that divides kind of this driveway from the neighbor. turns and then runs up pretty much in line with that fence line and then off to the main. You can follow the patchwork in the road. There's a big obvious patch saw cut in the asphalt. And that saw cut there is the patch where the sewer line runs. And where it hits the main is like 6 inches from the street edge on the far side of the road. A long sewer line. Anyway, as it relates to standing water in lines like this, I don't start recommending repairs on in general. I don't even consider belly repairs until there's at least an inch of standing water for 5 feet. That's with no water running at all. That's only when it's, you know, in a plastic line. That's usually in small diameter 3-inch pipe, and when the belly is basically underneath the home, where it poses a much higher likelihood for a backup to occur. So once you start getting bellies a good distance from the home, you know, let's say you know, like here for instance, we're coming into a little bit of standing water. So this one dissipates off here at about 105 feet. Beyond this point, there was a teeny little bit of water. As my camera goes through these bellies, though, it kind of sloshes water out. Everything beyond this point, if there is anything, it's not even worth talking about. I mean, this is barely worth talking about. It's so minor here. Thus far. So right there, you're hitting about a 1/2 inch of water. That's about an inch there. Just barely at the top of my camera lens. So at this distance from the home, you can see the sidewalls of the pipe, the top of the sewer line. The only thing you have at the top of the line is mildew growth. None of that is buildup, debris of any kind. The sidewalls are clean, and I would not expect to see major buildup out of a belly like that. But let's say you theoretically got a blockage out there at 100 feet out of that little guy right there. You have to fill up at least 100 feet of pipe just to get back to the house. The amount of head pressure, which is the water weight that is sitting on that blockage at that point, is extreme. And there's very few, if any, blockages that are made out of proper items that can withstand that kind of head pressure. You'd have to clog this thing up with nothing but paper towels and wipes to get a blockage stubborn enough to actually withstand that. And even then, you'd be struggling to get it to back up all the way. So anyway, you got some gunk right here. My camera just went through and busted most of it up. Most of that junk there is going to flow off in the next day or so with water flow going through the line. So in total there, you basically have essentially one continuous belly. There's a little bit of a break in between. But from around 91 feet here to 105 feet, you've got anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to barely an inch of standing water. So, and the buildup in this line right now, you know, it would be a nice thing for the homeowner to jet the line just so you're handing over a clean slate. There's barely enough buildup in this line to even justify jetting it. That's how minor that is there. So, if I can barely even recommend you clean the line, repairing it just is silly. It does not make any sense at all. And honestly, on a line like this that's this long, the tolerances you're working with are so tight. Most of these main laterals on these neighborhoods like this were never designed to handle a line, you know, not truly anyway. Theoretically and feasibly, there's enough room to do it. You know, if you're building a neighborhood to accommodate 100+ foot sewer lines, you want that main to be super deep. So you have plenty of room to grade that thing. Usually these installers are working with some tight tolerances, and it takes very little to get a line to settle. So, you know, I'll put on the report, I recommend jetting. There's a little bit of grease buildup in the line here. I think it would be a nice thing to do just to hand over a clean slate. But just understand, the kind of buildup you have in here is not the kind that's going to be contributing to blockages. It would help something along that's already going to block a little more stubbornly. But the grease buildup you have in here is very minor. I mean, it's probably a 32nd of an inch thick, where there is any at all. So this is a line that's actually been treated quite nicely. The big thing when you have any amount of standing water in a line, and again, what you have right here is a little bit of water in the flow line, which is at the top of the pipe right now. My camera is scraping junk loose, and it's causing little miniature dams in the flow line. That water right there is not actually truly standing water. It only is because there's a little bit of gunk in the flow line to dam up a tiny bit of standing water. All of your standing water here is way the heck out from the home. It's all 85, 90 feet or more away from the house. You could have bellies with 3 to 4 inches of standing water at those distances, and you would have to, if you're blocking and backing up out of bellies even like that, it is still almost 90+% the homeowner's doing. So these are not ones I am worried about in the least. Not unless you plan on flushing pairs of socks down the toilet or something like that. So anyway, we've just went backwards here. I am now through the foundation wall. No settling issues or anything going backwards. So I'll recommend some cleaning just to clean the grease buildup off the line. If you didn't get it cleaned, you know, don't go losing sleep over it. I think it would be a nice gesture just to bring the line back down to a clean slate. And you can completely mitigate grease buildup, or almost entirely anyway. Rule of thumb I tell most people, and that is the main culprit. I am more concerned about grease buildup, thick grease, than I am most structural issues at this point in my career. After 25,000 sewer scopes and 13 years, the grease buildup is often one of the main culprits to blockages occurring. It makes your lines sticky, and these longer lines are more prone to building up because they're so long. That grease has a lot more chance to cool down and build up throughout the line. So the big thing is let your pans cool down, wipe them out with a paper towel. If you have enough grease on your pan that it runs off the pan if you turn it sideways, a thin little coating of Pam spray is no big deal. Hot water and soap handles that. On a line this length, what I would suggest to you, if you know some of it's getting down there, always use hot water as hot as you can get it. And keep that hot water running for about in this case, probably a solid 2 minutes and after your last dish is washed. This is a long sewer line. Everything takes a while to get to the main. That helps to ensure anything that is going down line, it helps to keep it melted and emulsified till it gets out to the main lateral. It's best not to put any down there at all, but that's a good way to help mitigate any from building up. So as this line sits here today, we have good flow to the main lateral. The belly is doing very little to affect functionality. Much of the thicker stuff that was out there in and around those bellies, my camera has busted up, the stuff in the flow line. Most of what's left in the line here is some stuff on the sidewalls, which is, again, not doing a whole lot. It would mostly contribute to a blockage that's already probably going to block or dang close to it. So all the pipe is intact here and in good condition. The belly is far too minor and way too far away from the home to justify repairs in this scenario, in my opinion. It's way too much overkill there to repair that, what you've got here. So for a 127-foot sewer line, this was very nicely installed. I scoped many lines that are this long, and about the only ones you're going to get with perfect grading are pitched up on a big, huge hillside, and everything is set at very deep depths to work with. A lot of things working in their favor. So whoever did this install did a great job doing it. Even with the standing water that's there, your likelihood of having standing water on a line this length is almost 100%.